Hello friends, this is a video for the month of April 2024. A new moon will happen on the 8th of April in Aries and it will be solar eclipse. And the full moon is going to happen on the 24th in Scorpio. Let's mention a few important planetary transits. The Sun is in Aries until the 19th, then in Taurus. Mercury is retrograde until the 26th in Aries. Venus is in Aries for most of the month. Mars, Saturn and Neptune are in Pisces, Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, and Pluto is in Aquarius. In the video for April, I will mention only some of the most important transits and aspects. A lot of planets and events are in the sign of Aries and Taurus, which talks about two important topics. One is, this Aries part, decisive new moves. It can be decisive war, which regardless of all horrors leads to the end of conflicts. And this topic of the Taurus are about the economic changes of civilizational proportions, let's call it like that. But let's explain it step by step. The 8th of April is the new moon in Aries, which is at the same time a total eclipse of the Sun. This date worries many Americans because this is one of the three most significant eclipses that affect only America, not the surrounding countries, and as such it warns of something. And after all, this eclipse is happening now when it is more than clear that the dollar is losing its importance. When we see that American debt is $34 trillion, that's how I found it on the internet, I don't know, but it's crazy sum of money. And then when we see then NATO, which is American army, is losing the war now against Russia and also against Palestine, which will soon be very clear. So I received some videos that are saying that in USA its rulers are preparing an attack on people with biological weapons, but actually they present that to the public as they are now preparing to help in the case of such event, in the case of such attack. And of course, we know that what they prepare against for, they actually organize. Hollywood is no longer popular, so this reality show of theirs takes place in the medias in the last years, which are of course medias, I mean strictly controlled by the Zionists and similar circles. So the so-called dark forces love to organize presidential elections as well some other events on this day, around the day of the solar eclipse, because they know that very well how to manipulate energy, while they're teaching ordinary people that reading heavenly omens is superstition. So they have their plans, but I guess we have our own plans also. And you see, we are getting better and better because they were preparing many new viruses and they failed, and it means that they are losing the game. So now it is very important that we all find the strength to go through this in the spring and during the year, because I think that the end is coming soon. The time between two eclipses in March and April, that is from the March 25th to April 8th, is particularly significant because it's always significant, this period between two eclipses, but now even more because the comet 12P will be visible at the end of March and beginning of April, which is exactly in the time actually between eclipses. Some astronomers say it will be visible during the solar eclipse. And this is the total eclipse, which is very interesting, and the comet is coming. And this comet is of the Halley type, and it appears in period of 71 years. During June, it will be closest to Earth, but they say it will be no longer visible. So, of course, astrophysicists, they are just seeing here like some physical phenomenon, but for astrologers, this comet in the time of eclipses is a special event. We know that eclipses themselves create often the reversal of 180 degrees, and it is now especially important that comet appears in this time. However, I want to mention here that it's not that strange thing that we have a comet. We have comets every year, but there's nothing special, but it's interesting now the combination of the comet and the eclipse. So let's say now a few more words about the disintegration of the USA and maybe secession of Texas and possibly other states that were part of America until now. Solar eclipses suggest changes relating to the ruler, or one ruler, or those who rule. However, the effect of the eclipse lasts at least half a year, at least, maybe the whole year. So now the question arises as to what will happen unexpectedly before or during the presidential elections in the USA. We don't know what will happen, but we know that it's going to be very dramatic. That is why it is very conventional for them to use chaos, to create some chaos around the presidential elections this year, because that's how they will actually provoke other changes. And these changes, whoever does whatever it does, will lead somehow to reformatting of the states and the borders inside of the USA. I remind you that I recorded a video called Eclipses, October 2023, about the fall of empire. I filmed this video symbolically in Constantinople, which is today's Istanbul, and I recommend you to have a look at that video to remind you what was that about, and I'm not going to repeat that, what I said there, but it is about the fall of the empire. So the empire is definitely collapsing, but it is not only about America, but also about the groups actually who were leading America, or if you want, who were using America, especially American army, for their private businesses, which was happening in the last decades. If the empire is not collapsing, how could one explain that all story about the corona stopped when Russia attacked Ukraine? You know, it was like in a few days when the special operation started, no more talking about corona, you know. So some things are very, very significant that are happening. We don't need astrology. We can just look what is happening around us to see where this world is leading. Furthermore, this eclipse is in opposition to the solar eclipse that occurred on the 14th of October 2023, when Israel's attack on Palestine began after the planned reverse attack, which means that the tipping point was reached there. The United Nations is making some decisions which can already help the Palestinians. Let's hope, because it is absolutely terrible that the world watches the genocide of the Palestinians and does nothing for that. It is equally terrible to see Ukrainians dying for others' interests, and it is very significant that they cannot resist that what is happening, even if they are aware of it. Excuse me just a minute, I have to open the door. Yeah, I'm back. Yes, one should never brag about achievements of any kind, that we achieved, like people who live in the 21st century, while the wars of the elites, so-called elites, against humanity continue. And no one should brag because that we achieved something, because people allowed those so-called elites to do so by going to the elections, you know. So let us remind you that the global leaders plan to destroy people on this earth by doing this with them, by biological and psychological and other wars. And they are doing that in order to save the planet. That's what they are saying. And people accept that, and many people propagate that, and even let children in the schools to study about this, you know. And now we are like surprised what is happening. Now this is the world where we live in. But Mercury is now retrograde in April, and it will be until the 26th. And it could be one of the signifiers of the ending of the conflicts. Or it can be a new perspective that changes everything now. And about that also speaks the conjunction of Uranus and Jupiter that we will mention later. It is not only dangerous in Palestine in the Middle East, but also in Turkey, which we have not mentioned much before in my videos. Namely, today's Turkey was created in June 1993. And this current state of Turkey has a significant transit now. Well, Pluto is transiting and creating the opposition to the Sun in the native horoscope of today's Turkey, which is very transformative energy, and which is saying that there can be some big change about that. Do they identify with themselves as now, and maybe about that position of the leader, or maybe dramatic change of the leader of the state, or things like that. And now we have the conjunction of Saturn and Mars, which means basically fight to the end. But effect of this conjunction will last for two years and a half, yes. So potentially fights can continue 2 years and a half, but let's hope that it will not be exactly that. The main things will happen during 2024-25. Well, the terrorist attack in Moscow certainly has a lot to say about that what is now preparing. Innocent people are suffering, they were killed and they are suffering still because somebody is organizing such things in the world. Why is he doing so? In this case, in case of Moscow, it is interesting that it was at the beginning of spring, as was the bombing of one part of former Yugoslavia, that 25 years ago. But also, at this time, when they created this attack, was a holiday of some groups celebrate a holiday. I will not mention who and what. And also, it was the time before lunar eclipse. And those crazy people who rule the world in a way, they always use such events to create what they want to create in the world. And they often plan attacks at the beginning of spring when the sun is in Aries. It is likely that they will get what they were creating, you know, because from these astrological symbols that we have now, it indicates that Russia and maybe its allies will now make a step toward the end of the conflict. So those who create chaos will have chaos in their countries. And the statement of the president of Russia, who said that they are in the war, came in the right time, of course. I have told several times that these morbid people who got the power in the world, who rule in a way, that they perform magical rituals and sacrifice people. Fortunately, I don't know the details of their morbid lives, but I know the principle, how they do it, and roughly why they're doing it. And if you wish to learn something about that, please have a look at my video where I explain that in a way. The name of that video is about the male and female principle, the game of yin-yang, knowledge of Diotima. You know, when you go through my videos, you will see this. the game of yin-yang, play of yin-yang, something like that is the name of the video. Well, the conjunction of Mars and Saturn means determination to fight to the end. And this conjunction looks like a war ultimatum. And we will see if it will be. I think yes. Then it can happen that actually it leads to the end of conflict, or it can create such a huge conflict that it will be like a biblical flood on the earth. Because I remind you that this conjunction is happening in Pisces, and Pisces is the sign of flood. Some are talking about the tactical nuclear strike, which would be carried by one or the other side. That's kind of possible, I would say mainly in July this year, but let's hope it will not happen. In my yearly video for the year 2024, which is called Chelik and the Dragon Fight, we said that we live in the epic time where some evil must be defeated, but not through open fights, but must be hit in the heart, so to speak, in order to cause the system to crack, or in order to cause the falling down of the system, and without major consequences for humanity. So if you remember, we said that in this video our hero was fighting with the dragons together against that Chelik, but they could not fight him. You know, he was so powerful that they could not fight him. And finally they found where is hidden his power. It was in the fox that contained the bird, and the bird has the heart, and inside of this heart was his power. So they killed the fox, the bird, and find the heart, and they burned it, and then actually this monster was killed. He died. So something like that I think must be in the world this year, eventually next year. That will be a kind of a positive solution for this terrible conflict that we have now in all areas of the world, basically. It is also very clear here now that those who are who want to fight against humanity, who fight against Russia and against the future of the world, they are ready to go to the end. But it seems that this positive side is also now ready to go to the end. So let's hope that the beast will be hit in the center, in the heart of it, and that's how this will end. And because of this symbolism, I think that Russia with its allies will now take the lead, but not only through the war. This is interesting thing here, because immediately after this conjunction actually is happening the miracle, which promises many good returns, many good changes. And even though if this conjunction of Saturn and Mars is not naive at all, here comes the conjunction of Uranus and Jupiter, which predicts change for the better. Regardless of the fact that stormy events are yet to come in the summer, and possibly even later, April symbolism is very significant. The conjunction of Uranus and Jupiter says also, I guess, that now Russia and BRICS countries have been leading the world to the future de-dollarization. Since the spring on, it will be more intensive, and they are also leading these members of this organization to use their own currency. It can be that they will also say publicly that they have prepared another currency which will be digital, which will help those countries for some big money exchanges. That is also possible now. So we see now that is something like that will happen, which will be the process that will change economic and monetary system of the world, and will actually help the completion of the war conflict. That's how I think it will be, somehow like that. But Uranus and Jupiter are just the initiation, just the start. These changes we can actually see in the next years, hopefully not in next 10 years, because the effect of this conjunction will last 14 years. So in the next 14 years, there are going to happen things according to the symbolism of this conjunction, which is happening now in April. Well, actually, in April of 2024 starts the new cycle of Jupiter and Uranus, which ends the previous one that started in Aries in 2010 and 2011, which actually symbolizes wars with new types of weapon. And now we have this conjunction again, which is quite promising, and it's about the subject that I already mentioned. I actually mentioned this conjunction in a separate video. I recorded it in March 2024, and the name is Conjunction of Jupiter and Uranus, and there I talk about the influence on all zodiac signs. Check it if you are interested in that, how will influence you, your sign. So Jupiter and Uranus will meet again in Taurus only in the year 2107, means in 84 years from now. So it is more than clear that now this is the beginning of new economic system and also of new relationships between the countries of the world on the economic level. This begins now. This conjunction can be quite sudden and surprising, even though we assume what it is approximately about, but still it can surprise us. It is certain that it is about the big change of value of food, money, human work, and human possessions. Also, it hints the use of new raw materials we have not been using so far, but also about changes in science and religions of the world. Suddenly, there will be a change of perception, and many people will talk in a new way, see the world differently, and accept new goals. Maybe because they will realize how the world will develop in the next decades, and now suddenly many of those who were agitating for the evil ones, they will just jump onto the other side and pretending that everything is normally like. They also always thought that this side is correct and they should follow this side and so on. So many will move and start behaving in accord with the new trends. The message of this conjunction is that it is necessary to accept the challenges of the new. Those who are ready to change everything have a chance to catch up with the future. Those who want to keep the old values, they can not do that, they don't have chance in the future. Conjunctions such this often bring some sudden awakening in the consciousness of people, some moments of the truth, which can sometimes be very difficult, but it is very important if we want to gain self-knowledge. However, this is a combination that brings good luck. This is interesting about this. It is about that drama at the beginning of the month, now suddenly coming something that is talking about the good luck. There is a way how to overcome all of this that we live in. So fear is completely unnecessarily here. It is clear that the new world and the better world is now creating. We just need to go through this chaos still. In the mentioned video for all of the zodiac signs, I told which areas of life this conjunction covers for each of us. Now I can add that it is important to believe in the future and to have bold plans for the future. Not too big, not too small, of course, but you can make even bigger ones, and then be sure that in 2027 they will be corrected if they were too big. Now I also want to add some questions to help you to guide this energy. Listen to these questions. The first one: what beliefs of yours prevent you from accepting the challenge of the new? Which area of life is promising now for you? Are you ready to take a risk and succeed? What inspires you the most right now? If you wish, you can write these questions to yourself and think of them during April, May, and the months to come. Maybe it can be interesting to think of you through these questions. Then on the 24th is a full moon in Scorpio, which is always dramatic. During this event, the Sun and Moon are in square with the Pluto, which is the ruler of Scorpio. And this speaks in particular about the aforementioned drama. Now a 6-month cycle is coming to the end, so this was started on the new moon on November 13, 2023, is now experiencing its culmination, and after this Scorpio full moon, this energy will disappear slowly. Those with significant horoscope points around the 4th degree of Scorpio may be quite irrational or feel very big tension during this full moon, but we will all feel tension, it is simply Scorpio. During the full moon, the current conjunction of Uranus and Jupiter is also accurate, and it's accompanied by the stellium in Aries. I don't have time to describe this stellium in detail, but we certainly have dramatic struggles ahead of us, both on mundane and personal level. Interestingly also, it is very transformative, though tense combination of the planets. So the tension, but yes, it will lead to some very fortunate turnovers later. And that is all for now that I wanted to tell you in April 2024. Feel free to schedule personal consultations with me based on astropsychology, spiritual astrology, based on Feng Shui if you wish, or also based on the method that I named the change of the code, the change of the perception, which help us to work with our subconscious and to change our programs that we have and that are maybe in a way stopping us to do what we want to do, to be what we want to be. On my web pages, which has the name symbolicthinking.net, I also have new newsletter in English. You can follow it if you wish. And if you like this video, please like it, share it, and thank you very much for that. I wish you luck and courage to jump into the new, and see you soon.